Welcome everybody, happy Monday. Welcome back to Dallar's Felix Tactics. Okay, this video is going to be kind of like a general video. I'm going to ramble on about prototypes and kind of discuss what I think are the better ones. I'm not going to call this a tier list because really it's almost impossible to rank the prototypes from best to worst. I guess you technically could, but the game has pretty much moved in a position where they've put out prototypes that are specifically tailored to each team. So really, a prototype is going to be more worthwhile to you if you've got that team built up, right, to a degree where it's going to become useful. So we're going to ramble for a long time here. We're going to go into a brief, we're going to start with a brief overview on prototypes in general for possibly new players that might be catching this video for the very first time. All right, so prototypes that you see in your base screen, divine prototypes are right here. Now you can get prototypes. First of all, Dialer, how do I even get prototypes? Okay, well, the most plentiful way to get prototypes is from the Lost Valley, from Terradome. As you see, you can get all of these nice yellow ones, right? But 0 red ones. They have added these 3 right here, down here. We'll talk about those later in the spreadsheet, but these are brand new ones that are only available in the X levels. To complete the X levels, you need really good assassins. And then if you can complete Terradome X level 3, you can get these, which are basically gene hybrid shards that allow you to upgrade a red prototype. You could use it on a yellow one, but I wouldn't recommend it. You can upgrade a red prototype, which the red ones are very, 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 very rare. So this acts as like a copy of one of those to evolve it up to its max potential. So this is the most plentiful way to get yellow prototypes. Now, Dialer, the yellow ones, you know, they're good and all, but I want the Uber Kraken prototypes, and you get those from Twilight Lands. So unfortunately, they're most plentiful in Twilight Lands. Now, Twilight Lands is a once-a-month event. It shares a 2-week rotation with the Endless Battles event. Let me just claim my daily gift right there. And as you see, you start getting red prototype copies at, what is this, level 11, 10, 9, 8. Level 8. So today we're getting this one, which sucks because it's broken. We'll discuss that later. And then we come up here. We got to wait a while. Then you get another one at 12. You get the Ring of Greed, which also sucks. But this is a, what is it, an energy hero one? This is like the bargain basement red prototype of energy heroes. Don't worry about that one. That one sucks as well. And then we get up here to stage 15. We got Ruler's Ring, which is awesome. So you have to complete the highest first. Well, it used to be the highest level of Twilight Lands content to get this good prototype. And then if you can, which is, I know it is difficult to do, but if you can manage to down stage 16 this month, you get what is arguably probably right now, if I was going to classify all of the prototypes, this one would probably be the most important because it is a healer / support prototype, which is useful everywhere, absolutely everywhere, right? And then, so these are the ways you can get them. You can get one more by ranking. As you see, if you get in the top 5, you get another red one, but that's Uber Kraken territory. For the most part, these are the easily accessible ones. These prototypes kind of dictate what is coming next or what is going to be important in this Twilight Lands, like summoners. You get a summoner prototype in stage 15, and you're going to have to fight a summoner boss in stage 16. And then the only other places you can get red prototypes other than that is there's usually one in the store. Let's see if there's one in the store right now. There is not, but oftentimes there is one in the store. You see they're selling a full prototype gene hybrid crystal, whatever it's called, the universal crystal. Same thing, gene hybrid. But then, like right now, we have an event going on. Details gathering, which gives you the gears to do the Gamuzo's Bell. So as you see, what do we got here? We got 2 SSS heroes, and then we got this prototype, which is very, very tasty. Now, this is an RNG event, and the only way to get that is to guarantee you get that is to spend approximately $300. So just keep that in mind. And then next week, we got the other event, the Quantum Mimic Machine, which also they'll put another red prototype copy in there, which is, again, it's an RNG event. If you want to guarantee it, it's roughly $300. So keep that in mind. So Twilight Lands is going to be the best way for you, or for a common, free-to-play, beginner player to get started on the red prototype path. Okay. And then we go into here, and the prototypes are divided into 3 categories. So we're going to talk, I'm going to reference them as first slot, middle slot, last slot prototypes, but their names are actually Dominator, Tenacity, and Enlightened. Basically, Dominator, which is your front slot prototype, is more of your attack boosting prototypes. The middle ones is Tenacity. You get the point. Tenacity, durability, survivability, whatnot. And then Enlightenment is your support / healer type prototype. So Dominator, first slot, Tenacity, middle slot, Enlightenment, second slot, or third slot. Last slot. I'm going to call it last slot. And as you see, I don't have a whole lot on this account because I don't play a lot of Twilight Lands on this account. So we can't use this account to reference in this video. So as such, we're going over to my handy dandy spreadsheet. So get ready to shield your eyes. And this is where we're going to really dive into the nuts and bolts of prototypes. Veteran players, you guys know all this. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching that first ad. Catch you later. Everyone else, school's in session. Okay, so this spreadsheet, which I will zoom in on as soon as I get rid of this stupid Twilight Lands music. There we go. Okay. So I will zoom in on this and we'll discuss it in detail. This spreadsheet is available in the link, or it is linked in every single one of my videos. There's a whole bunch of tabs on here. I won't get into all these tabs, but it's got a lot of useful information. Now, in order for us to actually read this, we got to blow this puppy up to about 165% zoom. Whoa, okay. Now, I do have classes up top, SSS tier, A tier, B tier. But that, I think I just put that on there just because people like seeing that. But really, prototypes need a lot more discussion to determine how good they are. So we're going to start at the very end. And you know how when we were discussing Twilight Lands prototypes, I said that, let's make this full screen. How I said that these two, which are available this month, aren't that great. Well, the problem with this one is this is an energy prototype. There are much, much better. There's even better yellow energy prototypes. So just this one, disregard it. Just don't worry about this one. Do not ever use your crystals or the proto genes to advance these. Never do that. You'll just get these slowly and you'll never use it. Bloodthirsty Crest looks awesome, looks sick. Every one of us hoped that it was going to be good for bleed type vanguards, but it still sucks. It sucks. It is only useful really with Guan Yu, and it's just, we were hoping that they were going to rework it. It sucks. And this is a middle prototype. You can tell the symbols on the top. So this is a middle slot prototype. Assassin's Cloak, or Apocalypse Cloak, sorry, which the reason why this prototype is broken is because they have it classified as a first slot prototype, but it does not do attack boosting characteristics. It increases the damage reduction of hunters. So this, in my opinion, developers, if you're watching this, please reclassify this prototype as a middle tenacity type prototype. And then the rest, so the rest, you know, I've used some of these. You're going to see the descriptions on here. You guys can look at this and read it yourself. I don't really use any of these anymore. All these purple ones, you're going to use these at the very beginning of the game, but then you're going to very quickly start to get some yellow copies, and you're not going to use them. Some purples do have niche uses in the game still, but like this one is going to be one of your main tank type prototypes at the very beginning. This one's for hunters and energy. You can read the descriptions, but this is your very no, you're not going to use this one. Luna Box. Lunchbox. We'll call Lunchbox. So these purples you'll use. This red one has come in handy on some Gauntlet AoE type events, given some of the characteristics of its kit. But other than that, you're never, ever really going to use it, except, again, at the very beginning of the game. So I call these the rest. These are ones you don't ever really need to worry about and focus on. You're going to get them over time, but you're probably never going to use them. There are niche cases where I've used these, but resistances we don't really know how resistances work. So as such, you can use other better prototypes. All right, let's move over a little bit. And these ones, okay, these ones require some discussion. So there are uses for this yellow prototype. So tanks right now don't have a red middle type prototype, but they do have some, or they do have a lot of yellows This one, after so many basic attacks, they apply a stun. It's a one time and done use prototype. They can only stun on that once. So you can use this at endgame in certain situations. I know I have one on one of my teams right now in main arena. Can't remember. One of my arena teams is running this. This one now, I have this ranked as C tier. This Ancestral Will. I have it ranked as C tier, but really, it is the most used. Usually, if you have a really well-developed tank team, you only ever want to run this prototype as your middle prototype. Because what it does is it buffs up the shields that tanks apply to themselves. And now that we have characters like the Zeta rework and Wamagon that give themselves shields and heal themselves, this drastically buffs up that healing capacity. As such, this should be used. So this, even though it's used all the time on a tank team, I do have it ranked C tier just because it is, it's only for tanks. It's got low stats since it's purple. Yeah, so is there an argument for this one to be higher? Probably, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm ranking it down here. Again, with these two, or actually all three of these three purples, all three of these purple prototypes have niche uses where they are the best prototypes to run. Soaring Medallion is run anywhere you're going to run like Taylor, right? Forever we used Soaring Medallion in the first bosses of Guild Hunt. I even say it here, used with Taylor on Guild Hunt Turbine Boss 3, 6, and 9. You have to run this. It buffs up, even though it is a first slot. It's a first slot prototype, so it's an attack type prototype. It greatly increases the damage output of your team for a limited amount of time. Chaos Chip is still one of the best prototypes to use for assassins. Still used at endgame with assassins paired with Masrani and Miranda, because in order for this to function, you need a shield over your assassins. But when you do, it buffs up their attack significantly. So all four of these are used quite often, but they're purple, they're less stats, they're probably going to be replaced, and as such, I just rank them down here. But just keep in mind that they are still good. Coronate. It is a great healing prototype to run with tanks. So if you have a really good tank team, you might want to run Ancestral Will and Coronate together on an end game PvP tank team. Moving over to B tier. Now, arguably, in my opinion, you're probably going to run Ancestral Will, Soaring Medallion, Coronate, and Chaos Chip more than Red Thorn Rune. Red Thorn Rune was so rare. It was so rare. The drop rate was so low that we all just kind of blew right past it. By the time you got it up to max, you weren't using it on the teams that you wanted to use it on. It's an attack first slot prototype. Very rare epic prototype. Epics are yellow. Great with energy and hunters. It ramps up their damage to a certain cap. But now there's just much better ones. This one used to be really, really good back in the day if you could get it, which, again, it was so rare once you had it at, closer to the game's launch. This one was awesome, but arguably you're going to use these purple ones more than that one. Dark Summit, it's decent. It's an assassin type prototype. It's a first slot prototype. Good overall prototype. Good for crit based hunters and assassins. The problem with it is that its kit has a couple layers of RNG to it that you're probably, even though I've seen some people use it effectively to get good scores, good damage numbers, because of its RNG nature, it is usually just disregarded, even though it looks freaking cool. Company Heroes, really the only place this thing is still used is in Twilight Lands. It is a middle slot prototype. It is a decent tank prototype. It is still bugged. And in Twilight Lands, on the Generalist Bond boss stages, and as such, is still quite useful to use in Twilight Lands, even for endgame players if they don't have, say, a good Prism Amulet for Vanguard, or a good, whatever the yellow version of Prism Amulet is. This can still be used. It doesn't just heal tanks when you use it in the Generalist Bond. It heals everybody. Scholar's Monument. I still run this today on a summoner team. It is a healing / support type prototype. What happens is when a hero receives a crit hit, they heal. So you will often use this on your summoner team because you're not running a healer. Now you do have to have a support type unit on the field for this to work. As such, usually summoner teams have res. So if you have res on the team and you have this, you don't need a healer because summoners have, if you have the right prototypes, they have a really high capacity to heal themselves. They even have gear types that heal themselves, even though you don't often use them. And with this, you can actually get a lot of healing on a summon team without ever running a healing unit. Dominate. This can be used as well. I use it sporadically here and there. It is a middle type prototype. It is a tank type prototype. Basically, whenever the tanks get hit, it decreases the enemy's attack speed. It's if you can just use it. It's not really effective. It's okay. It is very, very middle of the road, but you can still use this at endgame. Again, keep in mind, tanks don't have middle slot red prototypes, but you're more likely than not, if you're running a tank team, going to use Ancestral Will as your middle one. So why do I have this one ranked higher? I don't know. Strictly because it's yellow with more stats. But again, keep in mind, I just threw these tier labels up here just because people like to look at them. But in my opinion, yeah, you could replace these yellow ones with the purple ones. But I wanted to keep all the purple ones together. A tier, okay. So, Horn of Healing. Still used a lot. It's rare-ish, but you do see it in Twilight Lands often. It is a summoner, or not a summoner, a support / healer type prototype. It boosts AoE healing, so this one's really good with, say, not Serena, like, I'll often use it with Miranda. You can use it with Mazrani. You can use it with Loran, but it only really boosts AoE healing. Like, as I say right here, be mindful not to use with single target healers like Serena. Often used for stats, so I'll often slot this in there because Mazrani, who is an AoE type healer, really uses Flashpoint more than this one, even though this one's a red one. They have actually combined a red and a yellow into another red, so we'll discuss that later. Fifth Element, it's a first slot prototype, can be used basically by everybody, but it boosts your attack speed. So this can possibly be useful for hunters, but the way that the hunter teams have kind of evolved, this one right here, Thorn of Glory, underneath it does the same thing. It also boosts attack speed, and in my opinion, this one just got a rework. It is much more useful for single target hunters than Fifth Element, and this one they do give out quite a bit. I also don't recommend to use the prototype advancement, like those crystals. I call them proto genes. Do not use proto genes on these. You'll get these over time. Even my baby free-to-play account has a decent Thorn of Glory. Flowing Rune. If you have an energy team and you don't have a maxed out Solar Flare, Flowing Rune you're going to get a lot of use out of. And there's even cases where you're going to want to use this versus a Solar Flare in certain fights. It is a first slot prototype. It is an energy specific prototype, specifically for energy characters that can AoE, because the more targets you hit, the more energy you get, causing you to basically get into an endless loop of ults until the enemy is either dead or they have killed you. I say almost better than Solar Flare. For a long time, people running this over Solar Flare, but now the people have Solar Flare maxed out. Solar Flare has become the epitome or the pinnacle of AoE energy type prototypes, which is why we'll discuss that in the last slot. Praying Eyes. Good. It's a first slot prototype. It's a damage type prototype. It is a good overall prototype. Works with hunters, assassins, energy. It's crit-based, I should say, crit-based hunters and assassins. I do believe energy also use Praying Eyes. It just ramps up your... when you do a crit, it ramps up your attack power on your hero. It's a good overall prototype. You're going to get a lot of them. You're probably going to run this all through beginning game, all through mid game until you get better stuff. Assassins still benefit with this versus, say, that purple one, Chaos Chip. Sometimes you'll want to run Praying Eyes over Chaos Chip, specifically, especially if you don't have a healing unit or a shielding unit, I should say, paired with your assassins. Very good overall. I use this. This was probably my most used yellow prototype until I started using, say, Flowing Rune with Energy. Vision Stone. Vision Stone is a lot like Red Thorn Rune. And in fact, it's almost the sister to Red Thorn Rune, given that it had the same minuscule, absurd small drop rate. The drop rate is higher in the X levels of Terradome, X1, 2, 3. So eventually you are going to get these, but this was extremely rare to the point that no one used it. Other than the whales and krakens that could dump a enormously obscene amount of stamina into Terradome. It is a first slot prototype, very rare epic prototype, also great with energy and hunters. Specifically, what it does is if an enemy has a debuff, you're gonna do, I do believe it's 35% more damage, or it boosts your attack by that much on enemies with a debuff, which can be easily achieved with, say, like Luke, who has an AoE debuff in his kit. So I still use this at times. It is very, very, very good, although it is very, very rare, which is why it is only in my kind of fuzzy A tier. Now let's get into the real good stuff, the meat and potatoes. Now, these are the red runes that are obscenely good. So they're going to be dependent on what team you want to build. So say if Summoners is your team, I'm going to classify all these ones in the first row, I should say here, as equally good. I don't want to give, although we could argue about which is better, but I want to give them all equal weighting, because if you are running that team, if that is the team you have most built up, be it Vanguards, Energy, Hunters, Assassins, Summoners, whatever, you're going to want their specific prototype. So let's start at the top. So Prism Amulet. This was one of the first Uber Kraken red prototypes. This is your Vanguard prototype. Now we do have, they did give us a yellow copy, which basically gives us half of the value of the red one when this is maxed. You can get these three. All three of these are copies of these that you can get from Terradome X1, 2, 3. But what this does is, this is a middle slot prototype. It drastically reduces the incoming damage to your Vanguards and allows them to stay up and keep going. If they kill the unit that caused the damage, it will totally negate the damage that came in. Now, what else do I say? This is the heart of a Vanguard team. It is still the heart of a Vanguard team. This is what makes the team really, really, really chunky and beefy. Must have for high-end gameplay. Use the yellow version, which is this one right here, until you acquire the red version. Use very rare and hard to obtain. They do not give away Prism Amulets very often. I do believe maybe the last Twilight Lands, it was either, I think it was a top 5 reward. This one was very, very rare when the game launched, and it is still extremely rare. They made bank on this one when they used to sell this one for $100. But when you get one, if the Vanguard team is your jam, if you really, really like Vanguards, use the prototype gene hybrids, whatever those crystals, universal crystals, to upgrade them, because you're not going to get a whole lot of copies. Ruler's Ring, we kind of have to discuss with Dominant Nucleus. Ruler's Ring is a middle slot prototype. It is but this one and Dominant Nucleus are both basically, I'd say, the key for Summoner teams. I call this one the heart of the Summoner team, but there's an argument for Dominant Nucleus as well. Again, must have for high-end gameplay. Use the yellow version until you require the red. It is available right now in Twilight Lands, and I have seen it in Twilight Lands before, and use the Protos, the Universal Crystals to upgrade. They do have a yellow copy. What this prototype does is that when a summon dies, when a summoned unit dies, it heals the summoner by an amount based on the level of the prototype. Right? So just running this prototype is akin to running a weak healer on your team for all of your summoners. which is what makes it very, very, very important, because if you can put res on that team instead of a healer, which it was often or is still often a good strategy, your team just doesn't die. It heals itself. You don't no support, no healer required other than res. Dominant Nucleus I'm going to discuss as well now that we're talking about summoners. This is the first slot prototype for summoners. This is the damage booster. It drastically increases the damage of your summoned units. I say here big damage booster for summoners. Kind of for summoners, but keep in mind that it applies to the summons damage. Also must have for high-end summoner. I say for high-end gameplay, but that's if you're going to have a summoner team, which the majority of you are probably going to start out using summoners, because the game gives you Dan in week 2 now. So very, 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 very good. This is currently the top 5 reward in Twilight Lands. As such, I say very rare and hard to obtain your first copy. I know endgame players that I've been playing with now since launch, looking at you, Idle, that still do not have their first copy of a Dominant Nucleus. So this one, if you see one, I'm not gonna. I don't advocate spending money in this game, but I'm just letting you guys know it is very, very rare and hard to obtain. But once you get one, yes, go ahead, run, don't walk. Use your Universal Crystal / prototype gene hybrids to upgrade it. Phantom Cloak. Okay, so if you love your assassins, which people tend to love assassins, you get 2 sides of the coin. People love hunters, people love assassins. If you love your assassins, you're going to want this prototype, because what this one does is it just basically makes them invincible for the start of battle, lets them dish out all that damage. That invincibility will tick down per second until you reach a certain point in the fight. But this one is a must-have if assassins are your team. It is a middle type prototype because it is a damage negator, right? It is a tenacity prototype. Anti-death assassin prototype. Needed high levels to be effective. I do believe you need most of these to be effective. You need them around a level 4. A lot of these red prototypes, they have special abilities that don't actually activate until you hit level 4. Can't remember what this one does off the top of my head, but it's good. Must have for high-end gameplay. You can use this yellow version, which you get from Terradome X123, until you get one of these, right? And then again, use your Universal Crystal / Gene Hybrids to upgrade. Attract Beholder. This one used to be uber rare as well. It is still uber, very, very, very rare, very rare. Which leads me to something else that I did not discuss with you guys that I want to discuss. So one other place actually you can get these prototypes, which is arguably more rare than Twilight Lands, is from Summon Arena. So Summon Arena, these are the rewards you get from Summon Arena. You get these medallions up here with the trophies on them if you get to the Summit rounds, and only the Summit rounds, which is the top 16 in your division. But if you do, just reaching the Summit rounds gives you 2 of these. So you'd have to reach it a couple times if you're just getting into the first round and getting knocked out. But you can get a lot of good prototypes from here. Bloodthirsty Crest sucks, as we discussed. This one sucks until they fix it. But we got Thorn of Glory, Attract Beholder, and Solar Flare in the Twilight Lands shop. But again, very, 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 very difficult to rank that high in Twilight Lands to be able to get prototypes from there. But Attract Beholder, this is a hunter prototype. This is a AoE hunter prototype. It is obviously, since it's boosting damage, it is a first slot prototype, but it also at level 4 heals your hunters. So it is kind of a mix of a first and middle slot prototypes. You need it again level 4 in order to activate the healing aspect of this prototype. Other than that, it increases damage. Must have for high-end hunter gameplay if hunters are your jam. Very, very rare, hard to obtain. Again, use the Universal Crystals to upgrade it once you get one. Titan's Hammer, or the Titan Hammer. Get to the hammer. That didn't make any sense. First slot prototype. This is the tank damage boosting prototype. As you see, the damage boosting proto for tanks. What it does is when on knockdown, it inflicts damage based on HP. Good at any level, but at level 4, it becomes truly godly. You guys can read the descriptions of all these prototypes in game. You can look at them, you just can't use them. Very, very rare and hard to obtain. The only way I got a copy, was by purchasing it. So this one has yet, I do believe has yet to be given or made available free to play. You could have gotten it through RNG on the Quantum Mimic machine when it was there, or I do believe it was actually Gamuzo's Bell. So this is one of those instances where I shelled out 300 bones in order to get a copy. But once you get one, it is, it is, if you like tanks and you want to run tanks everywhere, this thing is, you want one. Use genes to upgrade. So we're going to discuss the bottom one, Solar Flare, before we discuss the two above it. Solar Flare now, it has become the energy AoE, the AoE energy prototype. It is a first slot prototype. It is, again, I say the energy prototype at high levels. It is, I say Flowing Ruin and Vision Stone can be close to as good if you don't have a high level Solar Flare. I'd say you need it at roughly level 4 or higher before you want to start using it. But once you do, if you're going to run Energy, which is a great team, you do probably want to upgrade this. It basically, depending on the amount of people you hit with your AoEs, it ramps up your damage. It gives you a damage boost, right? And there's two different qualifications for damage boost, and both can be active at the same time. So with Jaina coming into the game, this prototype has become a monster. Now we'll discuss Impulse of Annihilation, because both Impulse of Annihilation and Revitalization Crystal have yellow equivalents. So basically, Pain Rune is probably going to be another one of those your main prototypes you're going to use early on in game and all through mid game. It works well with Assassins and Vanguard heroes paired with Gautier or Hagridon commanders. It is a first slot proto, almost mandatory, both of these. Almost mandatory for Vanguards. I would say it is. If you're going to run Vanguards or Assassins, there's no reason why you would not run Pain Rune or Impulse of Annihilation. Again, huge synergies with Hagridon Commander because it works based on displacement abilities. Can be used with Assassins as well under Hagridon. Very rare and hard to obtain. But for the Impulse of Annihilation, you definitely want to use prototype gene hybrids to upgrade the crystals. Basically, Impulse of Annihilation is a Pain Rune on steroids. It does the same thing, but also, other than bringing everything to the table that Pain Rune also brings, it also at level 4 and higher, or actually no, it starts out right at the beginning. At level 0 and up, will give damage amplification just on top of everything else that Pain Rune brings to the table, which is basically once you use a displacement, you shield, and then the shield pops, doing a value, a damage value equal to the size of the shield, which is based on HP, I do believe. So very, very good. These are your mandatory go-to Vanguard prototypes, along with Prism Amulet. So if Vanguards are your thing, you want Prism Amulet and Impulse of Annihilation, which Impulse of Annihilation right now is available on the current Gamuzo's Bell event. Revitalization Crystal, I said it once already, if I would have to rank one prototype above them all, I would probably have to give it to Revitalization Crystal. Why? Because this is basically a blend and does everything that Flashpoint does and Horn of Healing. It is basically Horn of Healing and Flashpoint combined into one super uber prototype. This is the prototype reward right now, currently at the time of this recording in Twilight Lands, if you can complete stage 16, which opens this Saturday. Last type prototype, healing type prototype, the be all end all of healing prototypes. This will be your most used proto because Flashpoint was your most used proto because every single team wants a healing prototype, and usually a team has a healer unless you're running summoners with res. The red version, very, very, very hard to obtain. At the time of this recording, I do not have one on my pay-to-win account. I will receive my first one come Saturday when I clear stage 16. use your crystals to upgrade this bad boy. This is the one. We'll take this opportunity. We're gonna go in game and show you exactly what this puppy does. We can actually do it right from Twilight Lands versus going and finding it. Where is it? Here we go. All right. So this is at level 6. At level 6. So this is maxed. When a support hero uses healing, just any healing, single target AoE, increase the healing amount by 15%. So it's just a flat 15% increase onto all of your healing. And it instantly reduces the cooldown of all of your other skills by 30%. And also converts the excess healing into a shield, which is what Flashpoint did. This increased healing by 15% is what I do believe Horn of Healing did. I do believe Flashpoint as well reduced. Don't quote me on this. One of the red ones, it's either Horn of Healing or Flashpoint, reduced the cooldown. But yes, also converts excess healing into a shield, which you run that with your Assassins and Chaos Chip, your Golden. The shield cannot exceed 20% of max HP of the healed hero. So what does this thing do? It just amplifies all healing. It lets you overcap your healing, and it reduces the cooldown of your other skills, which are often healing abilities for your healers. So that's the one we'll show. At level 1, though, you can kind of see how they drop off. Instead of 15%, it's 5%. Instead of 30%, it is 26%, which isn't that big of a deal. It still converts all the excess healing into shielding, but the shield now is half the value at 10% of max HP of the healed hero. And keep in mind, too, not only does that max HP create a bubble of extra protection around your healer, but if you're running it, say, with the Impulse of Annihilation, which is that Assassin/Vanguard prototype, and when your shield pops, it does excess damage as well based on the size of the shield. So, yes, this paired with that is great for hunt. It's great. I'd say you're going to get your most use out of this in an Assassin or a Vanguard comp paired with Impulse of Annihilation, but you're going to use it everywhere you can once you get one. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a 37-minute. I don't know how I'm going to label this video. Could I have boiled that down into about 20 minutes? Sure. But I wanted to put out just a in-depth prototype guide video, given that I haven't done one in about a month. So tell me what you think. Word of the day is... what should we do? Prototype. That's simple. Prototype video. If you've made it to the end of this video, put prototype down into the comments. Sorry the video is so long. But that is pretty much, other than just reading you guys the exact kit description for every single prototype, that's the gist of it. So whatever, the one takeaway I will give you is whatever team you're going to focus on, also focus on their prototypes. Don't go too wide. Don't spread out your your gene hybrid crystals too wide. Just focus on the teams that you want to build. As I've said in any other kind of build video, that is probably the biggest piece of information that I give out to anyone that asks me questions is what team are you building? Then go get that hero, go get that prototype, whatnot, right? Go get that gear set. So, 39 minutes. Word of the day, prototype. Tell me what you think down in the comments below of this video. Again, sorry that it was long. I'll catch you in the next one. Enjoy your week, everybody. Cheers, peace, and bye-bye.